There we go, so that should be working. Hi everyone, so welcome to our July NHSR webinar. This one's on our task automation. So as usual, for a few people who've probably joined a few of these before, my name's Alicia and we've also got Tom on the line, so we'll be kind of helping sort of field some of the questions today. Hopefully, you know, the technology will work, but if there's any issues, we'll be trying to help with some of that. We've also got Daria here, which is great, so she's going to be the one running this session today. So before we kick off, we just got the kind of usual bits of housekeeping. So we are recording these webinars. For those of you who've joined, you should just kind of automatically receive the link of when it's been recorded. But we also always upload them to our YouTube channel, which links to our website. So that's nhsrcommunity.com. So if you want to have a look back at that afterwards, you'll be able to find that there. So we should be running until about 2 p.m. So it should last about approximately an hour. Dara's going to present some the information, and then we've also got a Q&A. So if you've got any questions at all throughout the webinar or at the end, please do use the Q&A, and we'll either kind of review that throughout the session or most likely kind of near the end we'll be able to look back at those questions and Dara will be able to answer them. So please do use the Q&A. Just got a few other things to mention. So we have got an NHSR survey which we've created. So we're trying to get a better understanding of how people are progressing with the use of R in their work. And this will be really useful for us because it can help us to understand how we can shape future events, such as the NHSR virtual events that we're planning to run, and also shape our future training offers. And there's also, if you're from the NHS or public sector, there is the opportunity as well to enter a prize draw to win an R-related book as part of that survey. So we'll I'll get the words out. We'll pop that link in the chat afterwards, just so you can take a look at that, and we'd be really grateful if you could fill in that survey. Also, as ever, we do these webinars kind of monthly, so if you're interested in doing one, it's always on kind of this time, 1 till 2 p.m. on a third Wednesday of every month. So if you're interested in running one, you've got something interesting to share, please get in touch with us, which is nhs.rcommunity@nhs.net. So that's our email address. Or you can contact us on Slack. So I believe Tom's going to put the message in about the Slack link where you can kind of sign up and join us if you're not already on there. So that's just our sort of community, so people can interact with each other, talk to each other about what you're doing, seek help from each other. So it's just a really good platform really to kind of network with other analysts. And the only other thing for me to mention is just that we always do a kind of feedback at the end of each webinar to sort of find out how well if you've liked it, and if you've got any things that we can improve on. So we'll post that link near the end as well. So if you wouldn't mind filling in that little feedback survey about this webinar in particular, that would be really useful to us. And as ever, please keep an eye on our kind of Slack page and Twitter for any details about upcoming webinars. So we'll release details about the August one soon. And we've also got some announcements coming about the NHSR virtual events that we're running in November. So they're currently being planned, but that's where the information will go once it's all been sorted. So I'll stop talking now, being boring. So now, without further delay, I'm going to hand over to Daria.
Okay, thank you, Alicia. So my name is Daria Cosentino and I work for HCA Healthcare UK, and I work in a team called Clinical Informatics. So just a quick introduction on this webinar. It's actually a webinar for beginners, let's say, so no advanced knowledge of R is required prior to this webinar. And actually, there's not going to be many lines of code within R, but we're going to have a look at the integration of R and R Studio with the Microsoft Task Scheduler. So if you already used it in the past, this webinar might be a bit boring for you, but I still hope that you can get some takeaways on how we overcame some of the challenges that are derived by this method. So it basically, let's say that this webinar is for you if you have to put reminders in your calendar on when to run certain reports in specific days of the month or the week. So I will start with the slide. So there's going to be firstly a quick introduction about our team and the reason why we needed some sort of task automation. We are going to have a look at the infrastructure that we use so that you can maybe relate or you can find certain differences between your setup and our setup. And then we are going to go into the history of reporting and the challenges connected to all the different ways that we've used in the past as to report different reports. And then we are going to look finally at the main topic of this talk, which is the integration with a task scheduler and R. Looking at all the challenges that this new method has brought, and to see how we try to overcome these challenges. So who are we? So we are the clinical informatics team, as I said at the beginning. It's quite a small team. It's 6 of us. We look and use all the data, clinical data mainly, generated throughout HCA. So HCA is an healthcare organization in the independent sector. And just to give you an idea of the numbers, it's composed by 6 main hospitals in the UK, plus 3 NHS ventures. There's about 900 registered beds and 125 critical care beds. So there's a few challenges because there's many hospitals that we have to look after, but at the same time, they're not huge centers. So it's only 6 of us, as I said, and so we have to try and find ways to be more performant and to be able to crunch all the reports that we needed and keep on growing our reporting system. So that's why we started using R, and that's why we started using Task Scheduler in combination with R. The infrastructure of our team, so our data stack, looks like this. So basically, the data is entered into the clinical systems in all the different hospitals, and there's a bunch of clinical systems used. The main system is MedTech, which is our EMR used throughout the network, but then we have systems for critical care, for the vital signs, incidents, and you name it. So the data enter in the clinical system, and then there's the IT team, especially the business intelligence team in the department of ITG. They extract the data, and so Meditech is a non-SQL system, and then they basically run ETLs to put the data into a data repository, SQL-based, plus all of the other clinical systems that are SQL-based. They will shape the data and load them into our main server. So now I'm looking at the clinical informatics side. So every day, and for some of the systems, they're actually close to live. This guy is basically delivering the data into our main system, which is SQL-based. Some of the times this data is delayed, so it arrives late. So that's what we need to keep into account when we want to do task automation, because we might not want to run a task if we don't have data for it, of course. Then the system that we use, basically, it's every analyst with their own PC. They will connect to the main SQL server, and they will run all the analysis that they need by loading the data mainly into our studio. But then we also have a second server. This is what we call the web server. The reason why it's a web server is because it hosts our clinical information portal. So it's just a portal where we display and load all of our reports. But on this server, it's where we also have a database mirror of the previous servers, and at the same time, we perform all of the RStudio task automation. So everything that is automated will create an output, and the output is gonna then be refreshed daily, several times a day, and then published into our portal. In terms of tools that we use a SQL Server, Git for version control. We mainly use R and RStudio for everything. So we're also actually getting a bit away from SQL, because everything that we can run from R, we do it from R. We are fan of the tidyverse environment, and over the years we have developed a library of functions called Cleaning under Clinical Informatics. It's not live on CRAN because it's very much using functions that help us in the daily in our daily job. So they are very much specific to what we do. But this library function is actually growing, and now it's I don't know, I would say almost 100 functions in it. We use a Flex dashboard for the generation of the HTML dashboard. So there's also like a bit of code connected with some simple CSS and some borrowed JavaScript functions. For reporting, we also use other functions coming from the R Markdown library and also from the NeatR library. And we do a bit of data science using these packages. But mainly, what we are going to be focused on today in this talk is the use of Taskhead or Microsoft Taskhead. So if we just have a look at the history of reporting within our teams. Before I joined, and I joined the company more than 5 years ago, I think it was just like the beginning of the team, or the team did not exist at all. There was a reporting done through Excel, Control-C, Control-V. And then a step forward has been made by connecting Excel directly into the SQL database. Finally, and I was lucky because this happened like a couple of months before I joined the team, we started using R. So all the R generated reports, and I guess many of you are now using it to run your own reports. And finally, we moved into a majority of HTML-based reports, just to look at the pros and cons of each of the methods. I couldn't find any pros for Control-C, Control-V because, as you might well know, this method is very much prone to error. It is time-consuming. It is extremely frustrating, especially when your reports have a huge number of rows and Excel will keep on crashing. Visualization allowed by Excel, they're not great. The report can be modified by users, and no matter how much you try to lock the sheets, they will always find a way to change the numbers in it. Plus, the data are not live, so every time you will have to create a new report and send it to the users. A small improvement arrived when we connected the Excel spreadsheet directly to SQL. Less prone to errors because after you have set up the connection, you actually know that you're pulling the correct data into a specific cell. And it's less time consuming because you just need to hit on a button to refresh your data. But of course, there's a lot of user experience issues because especially for people that are not tech savvy, they might forget that they need to refresh the page to display the new numbers. So these came with a lot of calls and emails from the users saying that basically their pages were not refreshed, etc. And then this was accounting for a lot of time lost into our team to fix those issues. Every time that you need to do a quick update onto one of the cells or the workbook, you will have to send again a new file. And the main issue with this is going to be version control, because you cannot version control on your machine, but at the same time, it could be that the users are still using the old version of the file that you sent. And so again, this is gonna cause a lot of issues. Finally, we arrived to R. So a lot of pros is parametric, so you can just write a piece of code that could run every single day, and you don't have to change anything, because maybe it's all connected to a specific date that it can be retrieved by using a specific function. Great versatility. It allows version control, which is a big plus. And mainly the reason why I think my team started using it was because it allows for great visualizations with ggplot. And then after starting using it, we realized everything else was great, and we kept on using it. Allows other forms of output, so it's not just Excel, it could be CSV, could be text file, could be PDF generated with LaTeX, and other sorts of outputs. The cons, distribution is still an issue, because once you have the generated report, you need to think of ways to give it to the users. It's not live, And what does it mean is that as soon as you have created a report, the data could be outdated. And we all know that healthcare data is basically a living organism, because once you have generated the data, the same data might change in the system. And a good example is with Datix. And I know a lot of the NHS trusts are using Datix for recording incidents. So what happens is that if we report a number on total number of incidents, and one of those incidents get rejected, 1 minute after we have generated the report, the total number of incidents is going to decrease by 1. And this means that once the users are going to open the report, they're going to call us again to say, this number is not correct. So this means that we spend a lot of time trying to validate our reports with the users. And most of the time we were correct, but the main issue was just that the report was not live or was not updated anymore. So that's why we decided to move into HTML reports. This is because we can kind of control the output. So first of all, we know that if something is wrong, we can take it out of the way. While we cannot remove a PDF once we have sent it via emails. It's definitely a better user experience, because the user can go on one single place, or maybe just we can share a link with them and they can download the report, and at the same time we can refresh it as much as we want. But the cons with the HTML report was still that the jobs still needed to be triggered manually from our studio every time that we wanted to refresh the output. So the focus of this talk is gonna be how can we solve this problem. So the way we found, I think it's very simple and basic, but we found it so effective that is now, I don't know, 4 years that we're using it, and we haven't come across any big issues with it. So we're using Taskscheduler. So Taskscheduler is a component of Microsoft Windows that provides the ability to schedule the launcher programs or scripts. So you just need to decide when you want to launch it and what you want to launch, and this is it's gonna work. So if you're working on a Windows computer, you will have Taskscheduler already installed on your machine. I'm just gonna give you a quick demo if it's needed, but it could be that you already know very well how to use it. So once I open it, I can go to the library, and these are all the tasks with the names, the status, the triggers, the next time they're gonna run, the last time that they ran, the results, the author. So as you can see, the author are, most of them are basically created by Microsoft. There's a few of them that have been created by me as a task on this machine. And every time that you click onto one of these outputs, you can access all the information in here. So there's a description, the triggers. So this job will run daily at 3:09 every day. The action, what actually happens. So if I want to create a new job, I will only have to click onto create task. I can give it a name, specify a trigger, and then I can specify the action. What is the action? It's basically, it doesn't allow anymore to send an email or display a message, so it's gotta be start a program. So we just need to browse our system and find the program and the script that we want to run. So going back to the slide, the start a program function, the one that I just showed you, work with Excel files. So basically it's going to open an executable files if you point it towards one of those files. It works with PowerShell or command prompt commands as well. We generally use command prompt saved in a batch file because it's a very convenient way to automate routines and potentially have multiple tasks to be run from the same batch file. So a batch file is a special kind of text file that has a .bat extension. We're going to have a look at how to create one. It's very simple. And basically, it includes one or multiple commands that can be evaluated by the command prompt once invoked through the Taskhead application. So what is a bat file? You just need a text editor to create one. So you open your Notepad, Notepad++, anything is a text editor. You type the command to be run and you save it as .bat. If you just want to have a look at what all of these lines mean, echo off basically just disables the display prompt and turn command echoing off. Then you need to specify what is the program that you wanna run. In this case, we are looking at integration of our jobs within Taskhead, you're just gonna specify the path to where your r.exe is saved. So usually it's within this path. You just need to find the location where you saved it. It's on your computer. And then the command that you want to run is actually I want to invoke this instance of the command prompt. And finally, you need to type the full path to the file, to the R script that you want to run from Taskhead. So I've basically created a project. So I hope you can all read well enough from your screen. So opening it through RStudio. So this is my bat. So I'm gonna trigger this batch file from Taskhead, and this is gonna trigger a file that we called ts_test, and it's exactly this one. So what this is like very simple, it's just like 2 lines of code. I'm using one of the functions that is in our cleaning package. What it does, is just a wrapper around the TMR library function to send a message into a Teams channel. Just like you don't need to know anything specifically, but I'm just gonna try to send the message into my Teams channel with a title NHS or webinar, and the message is gonna be test successful. So this is what I'm gonna try to do. So if I go on Taskhead again, let's start from the beginning. So again, I need to create a task. I'm gonna give it a name, and I'm gonna call it test NHSR. Description, wherever yet another test. This was gonna run the task, so it's my login. I want to run it whether the user is logged in or not. I usually take run with highest privileges because it can cause some issues if you're not running Taskhead as with priorities. Triggers. I'm gonna create a trigger. The trigger means when you want to run the job. There's a few options that you can specify. So you can run the job only one time and that's it. You can run it daily and record it every day at a specific time of the day. Weekly, in which you can specify the days of the week. Monthly, if you want to run it on specific months, certain days of the month, etc. I'm just going to try to run it one time, and I'm going to put it so it's like 1:24. I'm going to put it for 1:26. Hopefully, we'll be quick enough to go through this demo. Okay, these I'm going to leave it as it is. Okay, so I've created my trigger. Now I want to create the action. So the action is I want to start a program. Which program? I'm going to start the bat file, which I've showed you just now within RStudio. Okay. Other conditions, settings. So this is just to be advanced settings. So if the task fails, restart every 1 minute, for example, or stop the task if it runs longer than 1 hour, things like that. Okay, so I created my task. I need to add the password if you're running from a password protected computer. So as you can see here, it will appear already here. So this is my new job, and it will be run at 1:36 on this specific day. and this is the author. I've just created it. So what I expected to do at 1:26 and 28 seconds, I expected to send a message to this Teams channel with this text and this title. So I'm just gonna open the channel. Okay, this is the channel, my channel. So this is like, as I said, that send to Teams function is from TMAR, and it's basically creating a webhook to a channel in Teams to send messages as if it was a bot. So what I expect to happen is in a few minutes, maybe in a minute time, in 28 seconds, it just turned to 26 past the hour, I would expect to receive a notification, a message in here. Well, we can wait and hopefully it will work fine. And then I'm going to show you another way of creating jobs in Taskhead by using RStudio through a function that it's called Taskhead. So let's give it a few seconds again. Maybe the job is running. Actually, what I can do is you can display or running tasks. Yes, so this task is running. So if I keep on refreshing it, it's been running for 15 seconds. And hopefully once this is done, I will receive the message here in the background.
Daria, we've had a quick question from someone. Yes. If you just want, someone's just asked, are schedules shared or are they linked to a user? Can a project run a file on a shared drive?
We do have a shared drive. It's just like you need to be permissioned onto that shared drive. So if your user is permissioned to that specific folders, you're good to go. So I'm showing it on my computer at the moment, but our setup is we run Task Scheduler from a server that is shared like by all of us, and it's what we call like the web server. So if you have permission, you can run specific files from any folders. I don't know if I've answered the question. In the meantime, I don't know if you can see, I've actually received the message that I've sent, so the job actually worked. So going back to the slides, as I've written here, you could use the library that is called Taskhead. Of course, someone has already created a library to use Taskhead within RStudio, make things even easier. So this is the library that you need to install. I've already installed it on my computer, so I'm not going to run the usual install.packages. But if you don't have it, either you run this line or you could use RStudio through the usual packages, install and install the library. So just to explore the library, I'm just going to load a few libraries that I'm going to need for this demo. Again, this one is not needed actually at the moment as of yet, but it's just will come later. The main function that I find very helpful from this library, it's called taskscheduler_ls. So if I just run the documentation, basically you don't need to add any argument specifically. So if you just run it as it is, what it will do, it will create a data frame with all the scheduled tasks as created in your task scheduler on your machine. So if I just run this one, I'm creating this data frame. And hopefully it will appear here in a few seconds. If I open it, it's basically all the information that I've seen in Taskhead. So it's already connected. Host name, the task name. So these are like a few tasks. I'm sure that we can find also the ones that we have just run. I don't even remember the name, but it was something like with the NHS. The next time they're going to run, the status. Some of them are disabled, some of them are running, or the last time it ran, the result. If it's 0, it means that it ran successfully. The author. So these are the ones that I've created myself. The task to run. So in this case, this is the link to the batch file that I'm running through Taskscheduler. A few comments. So these are the comments that are as part of the description field in Taskscheduler, and a few other things that might be helpful or might not be. As I said, this is a data frame, so I can just use all the functions that I could do with the data frame. So in this case, I'm just going to filter to have a look at all the tasks that I created myself. So if I open this one, yeah, as you can see, these are all the tasks created by myself. And this is the one that I think not task NHS ran, the one that we just ran earlier at 1:26. But this library, and I suggest you to have a look at the vignette on CRAN. So you could add, it allows you to add new tasks directly through the R console, which could be very helpful, or allows you to create a task by using RStudio. And this is what I'm going to show you quickly in a second. So if you just go into add in schedule R scripts on Windows, it opens this interactive. I think I need to go back. Yeah, otherwise it's too big. It allows you to interact, opens an interactive session in which you need to just select the file, the R script this time, not the bat file that you want to run. So I'm going to run it again like the same file that we just run previously. This is the location to where I basically saved my project and where the logs that are going to be created by this process are going to be saved. I'm going to run it again on schedule once, and I'm going to run it at 13:33. Done. Okay, so this should be already here. So actually, if I run this again, I can have a look whether the job was added to. Okay, maybe I did not add it because I cannot say. I'm going to do it again. Sorry. Okay, so let's select the file. Okay, I think I probably clicked on done, but not on create task. Okay. There is an error that of course was not there once I tried it, but we'll try to understand live what is going on. Okay, so let's do something. I'm gonna change the name so that file save as you. Okay, and now I'm gonna try to run my new file once, and I'm gonna create a task to run 35. Okay, I don't know what is happening, but this should be the correct location. Actually, I think since this is, it could be that actually it was created fine, because I have the impression that this is working at the moment, but let's have a look if it, yeah, the job that I previously created, even though like he gave me an error and I'm not sure why it happened, never happened before, but this is the beauty of the live simulations, but it ran fine. So at 13:34, if I actually go in Taskscheduler, and I refresh it, the way these adds-in work is it's gonna create a task with the same name of the file that you're trying to run. And so yeah, this is the file that I've just run before the new task. The output of the two different ways are either a log file or an ROut. So once you run a batch file through Taskscheduler, okay, this is the new job that I've created again. Once you run a batch file through Taskscheduler, it will create an .rout file in the same folder of the file, the R file that you're running. And this is how it looks like. It's basically printing everything that it's on the R console once you're if you're running the file manually. So if there's any errors, these are out will tell you what the error was, as it would appear normally on the R console. The output of the add-ins in our studio instead is a log file, and it looks exactly the same. So you can still, if you schedule a job, you can go to the folder and understand whether, especially when they do not run, what happens. You have log files. So going back to the presentation. A quick troubleshooting of the things that we come across more often. First of all, if you're using this library add-in to create a task, you need to make sure that the directories do not have any space. So at first, I've tried to set it up on my OneDrive location, and if you're all on a Microsoft 365, this is maybe your default location for R. It doesn't work. So in this case, I have to create a different location in my users folder without any space. Another thing is if you're using Taskscheduler with a batch file and your job doesn't run and comes with this issue, error 0 times 2, make sure or try at least to take the run with IS privileges as shown in this snapshot. Because it should overcome any problems with folder permissions, if you have permissions on that folder, of course. And finally, if you're trying to use a Taskscheduler to run an HTML page with Flex Dashboard or R Markdown, you need to remember that these two packages requires an instance of Pandoc. Pandoc is basically a document converter that allows you to convert from Markdown language to HTML. Since through the batch file we're only invoking the .exec file, you might not be able to find where Pandoc is saved. So you might want to add this line at the top of your R script so that at least you will know where to find Pandoc to transform the page into HTML. Okay, so now that we hopefully can automate all the jobs that we want, so where is the limit? The main risk is job failure. So it happened to us at the beginning, and just like a suggestion that we might want to give you is that you don't want to receive the news that a job has failed directly from the users. It's not good. So you need to put things into place to be sure that all the jobs that you were running in the background will run fine, and if they do not run, you will be the first one to be notified, so that you can either fix it straight away, or you can send a notification and apologies to the user that is expecting the job. And as I said at the beginning, it happens to us several times because there could be a data delay. So by the time we expect the data to be on our main server, it could be that it's they're coming 1 hour later. So if you run a specific job, it might fail because there's no data, etc. So you need to think of ways to avoid this scenario. I'm just going to give you a couple of ideas. I don't know whether you already come across this problem and solved it another way. It would be nice to hear at the end of the talk. But since I've already advertised that we're using Flex Dashboard, so we produce a lot of HTML dashboard. So we decided, why don't we create a diagnostic, data diagnostic dashboard? And this is basically what it does. We are using that Taskscheduler function to look at all the jobs that are running on Taskscheduler. We are filtering them by only the ones created by us, and we can display successfully. We can display how many jobs are successful, or the ones that are still running, the ones that have failed. So just to open the dashboard itself. I'm sorry. Wrong. Okay, so this is the dashboard. There's a few extra things, tabs to keep an eye on SQL tables, but basically it refreshes every 15 minutes. So the last time I refreshed it, it was at 11:40, but now it should, yeah. So it refreshed like 15 minutes, it means that now it's running again, and it shows all the jobs that are on the scheduler, the last time that they ran, the result, the next time that they're gonna run. So I can basically immediately know, oh, this job has failed. I need someone to look at it. Or if it's not important, then you can wait. But at least we know what's going on. At the same time, what we have added here is some kind of timeline, because once you start using Taskheader, you can automate all the jobs that you want, but you don't want to cram the Taskheader system or that server that it's running your instances of Taskheader. So you need to understand what is the best time, and also you need to understand what is the best time, because you might have to wait for specific data to arrive and things like that. So we've decided to create this sort of timeline, and these are all the jobs that are running, how long it takes for each job to run. So this is like a typical day for us, how it looks like, how many jobs we run and how many times a day we run specific jobs. To do that, the function Taskheader is not enough, because it doesn't tell you how long the job has been running for. So we try to solve this issue with a different way. What we did was we have created what is called a jobs log table. So it's a simple table in SQL, but you maybe can put it in a CSV and save it in a specific location. And every time a job is run, a line is going to be added to this table with a few information like person that ran the job, the host name, job name, the main job initial time. And if the job is made up of multiple parts, then you will have the main job initial part, the initial time, the start of that specific part and the end of that specific part, job part name, things like job type. And in this case, they're all coming from R, but in this table we also have jobs from SQL that would save a new row into this table. Comments, our versions, output folder. So these are all information that you can get directly from R. The function that we wrote is like, it's very simple. It's part of this cleaning package that again is not on cron, but it's just like to give you an idea. It's very specific to our database, but you can certainly replicate it in a few steps. Okay, so arguments are job name, job type, and all the columns that you want to add. A few of the columns that are in the output are generated, so you don't need to specify them in here. But basically, every time that you run this function, a new row is gonna be added into the table. So this is just to load a few rows of the table of all the jobs that run since yesterday. So here you have all the information, and you can calculate the duration of each specific job as well. So this allows you to create this sort of visualization that can help you scheduling jobs when needed. What is like understanding what is the best time to run a specific job. So just to summarize a bit of the workflow that we use for task automation, you will have to create the R script that you want to run, and you want the R script to be run from Taskheader. So you need to keep in mind a few things like no hard coding is allowed, because if there are certain variables that you need to change manually before the job is run from Taskheader, then it doesn't make sense. So you need to try and make it all parametric as much as possible. For example, what we do, we create rolling windows based on functions like sysdate or systime to cut out all the data that we don't want to be part of that specific report. You then need to create a batch file, and as I've shown you, it's very simple. You just open Notepad, and you type where your r.exe file is saved on your computer. You just type cmd batch and the link to where the R files that you want to run is saved, or alternatively, even though it showed a few errors during my demo, you could use the RStudio add-in. Then you go to Task Scheduler and create a new task. You can keep everything as much as possible as default. You just need to specify the trigger and the programs that you want to start. In this case, it's going to be the bat file. And then you need to wait for the trigger date and time, and then you can check out the output. Just to give you an idea of the types of output that we produce, there's like a lot of them. So the majority of them are HTML dashboards, and we found it very useful. I don't know if you have a similar setup, but we have what we call a one-stop shop. This is our portal. It's like simple HTML kind of a page where we basically link all the reports that we want, all the HTML pages that are going to be refreshed. So every time a page, the Task Scheduler instance is going to refresh a specific HTML dashboard, this is going to be in the same location. So we just have to link it from the portal. And at least our users, they know that if they need something from us, there will be certainly a link for them into this portal that they can use to download all the reports that they need. Then I've shown you the Teams notification. So if you haven't done so yet, I highly recommend you to use this Teamer function. It's very easy to set up, and you can create your own bot to send messages to yourself. For example, the things that I do, I send messages to myself, especially for those jobs that are very important. For example, at the moment we're working a lot with the COVID report, so I need to make sure that the report is run. So I send a message to myself, so I don't need to be logged on to my VPN to check whether the job is run. I can just check on my phone whether I receive a notification within Teams. We use a lot of LaTeX PDFs. And these are produced through the NeatR library. I don't know if you have ever used it. We can send emails through there's a few libraries. We have always used Mailer, but there's I think one more that is actually a little bit more easier and user-friendly than this one. And then you can create all sorts of output like Excel files, CSV, and you name it. But then you need to remember to regularly check either a dashboard like this one, data diagnostics, or what you could do, and it's something that we started doing, we actually implemented it last week. You can send a notification to yourself only in case a job has failed. So, for example, we have created another Teams channel, because I think that everybody is working with Teams these days. And the channel is called Cleaning Job Failures. So it would send a list of jobs that failed since the previous run of the data diagnostic dashboard. One thing that I don't think I've mentioned is that this dashboard is actually very quick to run, and we make it run every 15 minutes because 15 minutes we found as a good time to check whether there's some new jobs that have failed or not. Hopefully not too many. So yes, I think this makes the end of the presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it, or at least you got a few things out of it that you could implement within your teams.
That's great. Thanks so much, Daria. That's been really, really interesting. Thank you for that. If anyone's got any questions, I think we've got about 10 minutes. If anyone's got any burning questions for Daria, if you'd like to kind of put those in the Q&A, and we've got a bit of time to go through them. Just wait to see if anyone's got any particular questions.
While we're waiting for some questions, Alicia, I'll just start sharing our Mentimeter slides. So
that's great. Yeah, so yeah, if you give us any feedback on how you found the webinar, that'd be really useful. We can share these with Daria as well, and just for sort of future development of sessions and things that we deliver.
So again, please just go back through the kind of the published Q&As from earlier. We've shared the link to join the Slack channel if you're not already a member. We've also posted the link to where the slides for this webinar are being shared on our GitHub repo. And we've also shared the link to the 2020 NHSR survey, and it'd be really great if you could complete that. As we kind of mentioned, there is going to be a prize draw for completing the survey. We haven't quite figured out what date we're going to close it yet, but it's going to be only a couple of weeks. We think that we'll have that kind of prize draw open. So make sure to get your responses in as soon as possible.
Thanks for that, Tom. I have just seen one question that's come through from someone for Daria. Someone just asked whether does the code run itself, or is it a reminder to run the code?
The code runs itself, so it basically just you don't need to do anything. There's the option where you can decide whether the code is gonna be run if you're logged in or not. In that case, if you're not on your computer and you don't select the option logged off as well, it's not gonna run. But you don't need to do anything else. It's gonna run. So we have a lot of jobs running at night with no reminders. You can set up reminders for you.
Great. We've had another question come through. Do you have to have RStudio open in order for the code to run?
No, absolutely not. You just like it works. It doesn't need to be open. It will find automatically where R is saved, because actually in this case it's not using the IDE, which is RStudio, but it's using the R software itself. So you just need to put the path to the location where R is saved, and that's it. Your computer can be logged off. You don't need to have anything open, and it's gonna run.
That's great. Thanks, Daria.
No worries.
I can't see any other questions that have come through at the moment. Obviously, you've done such a good job explaining it. There's not many questions. So I think we might as well we can end the webinar a little bit early, give people a bit of time back. Thanks so much, Daria, for presenting that. That's been really interesting, really great. Thank you, and thank you to everyone as well who's listened in. And hopefully we'll be able to see you soon at our next webinar in August. Thanks very much, all.
Thank you.